All right, if you've ever wanted to master the absolute ultimate beginner-friendly Thai comfort food, you are in exactly the right place. In this explainer, we're breaking down Jued Tofu Moo Sub. It translates to a super comforting clear soup made with egg tofu and minced pork. But listen, we aren't just throwing together any old soup today. We're going to uncover a foolproof culinary secret that literally transforms basic everyday ingredients into something completely magical, right in your very own kitchen.
So here's our roadmap. We'll start with the ultimate comfort bowl, then dive into the secret to bouncy pork, building the flavor base, assembling the delicate soup, and we'll wrap things up with some really smart storage pro tips.
Okay, let's jump straight into part 1, the ultimate comfort bowl, and demystify this Thai classic. To really appreciate why this specific recipe is such a game changer, we have to talk about a super common beginner's trap. Think about it. Why do homemade pork meatballs so often turn out tough, dry, and frankly, a bit clumpy? Well, if you just take standard minced pork, roll it up, and toss it straight into boiling water, the heat causes all those proteins to instantly seize up. They essentially squeeze out all their moisture. You end up with something that feels like a dense little rubber ball. It's super frustrating, right? Especially when all you want is a cozy, comforting bowl of soup.
The difference we're going for here is night and day. On one hand, you have that standard minced pork, dense, dry, and totally uninspiring. But our target is a brilliant Thai culinary preparation called Moo Ba Cho. When you prep Moo Ba Cho correctly, it is unbelievably fluffy, juicy, soft, and it has this signature, totally addictive bounce that just melts in your mouth. It's the secret to elevating a totally simple clear soup into a legitimately restaurant-quality dish.
Which brings us to part 2, the secret to bouncy pork, which is all about the kneading technique.
Let's define what we're actually making here. Moo Ba Cho is a specially seasoned, tenderized, and kneaded minced pork paste. But here is the absolutely crucial concept you need to grasp. You have to treat the meat fibers almost like a sponge. Through physical manipulation, basically a lot of kneading, we are going to force the meat to literally absorb liquid. That liquid gets trapped deep inside the protein matrix, and that's exactly what gives you that ultra-fluffy, juicy texture.
So, how do we actually do this? It's 3 pretty straightforward steps. First, toss your minced pork into a big mixing bowl and add your seasonings. Think salt, sugar, and maybe a little tapioca starch if you really want that extra silky smoothness. Second, you're going to gradually add cold or room temperature water. And third, you knead, and I mean vigorously. You really want to get in there with a stiff spatula, pressing and smearing the meat against the sides of the bowl. You keep at it until the mixture transforms from separate, crumbly chunks of meat into this really smooth, cohesive, sticky paste.
Now for the magic ratio. For perfect hydration, you want about 350 milliliters of water for every 1 kilogram of pork. But hey, massive word of warning here. Do not just dump all 350 milliliters in at once. Different batches of pork hold different amounts of natural moisture, you know? You really have to add the water gradually. Knead it in, wait for the meat to absorb it and plump up, and then add a splash more. If you dump it all in at the start, you're going to overwhelm the meat and end up with a mushy, runny mess. Patience is absolutely key for this step.
All right, part 3, building the flavor base. Enter the 3 buddies.
If you're going to cook Thai food, you absolutely need to introduce yourself to Sam Gaunler, which literally translates to the 3 buddies. This is the foundational aromatic trio of Thai cuisine: garlic, coriander root, and peppercorns. You pound these guys together in a mortar and pestle until they form a really fine paste. And yes, pounding them is essential. It crushes the cell walls and releases all those incredible essential oils. For this particular soup, we divide this magical paste right in half. One half gets folded directly into our beautifully kneaded Moo Ba Cho to flavor the meat from the inside out. The other half, we save that to build our broth.
Moving on to part 4, assembling the delicate soup. And trust me, timing is everything.
Let's walk through this timeline, because you really want to avoid overcooking these delicate ingredients. The whole thing happens fast. At minute 1, bring a pot of water to a boil and drop in your remaining 3 buddies aromatics, followed by spoonfuls of your Moo Ba Cho pork. By minute 3, the pork will be cooking through, so that's when you add your soup seasonings: soy sauce, sugar, and a pinch of salt. Minute 4, toss in your chopped Napa cabbage. We add it late so it keeps a nice, satisfying crunch. Finally, at minute 5, gently slide in the egg tofu and Chinese celery. Kill the heat and boom, you're done. A 5-minute soup assembly.
Now here is a massive pro tip, especially if you're a beginner.
You might have noticed I said boil water just a second ago. Now chicken stock or pork bone broth. Why? Because our Moo Ba Cho is so deeply flavored, it literally releases its own incredible juices right into the water. You don't even need stock. To finish the broth, you just season it with light soy sauce. It flavors the soup perfectly and turns plain water into this beautifully appetizing, rich golden broth. It is so efficient and tastes amazing.
Just one quick warning as you're putting this masterpiece together, handle it with care. When you add that egg tofu at the very end of the process, do not stir the pot vigorously. Egg tofu is unbelievably fragile and silky. If you agitate the water too much, that beautiful tofu is going to shatter into a million messy little pieces, and it kind of ruins the whole elegant look of your clear soup. Just use the back of your spoon to gently push it under the surface of the hot broth so it warms through.
When you finally sit down with a bowl of this, the payoff is just immense. To quote our culinary source directly, the Moo Ba Cho is not rubbery like commercial meat, soft, bouncy, and mellow. Perfect for a rainy day. Imagine topping it off with a sprinkle of crispy fried garlic, some fresh cilantro, and green onions. It's basically the ultimate warming comfort food. It tastes like it took you hours to make, but as you've seen, it's incredibly simple to execute.
Finally, Part 5, Smart Storage Pro Tips. Let's talk meal prep magic. So say you made a full kilogram of Moo Ba Cho and you've got leftovers. Here's a genuinely brilliant, space-saving hack for storing that raw, seasoned pork paste. First, portion it out into a Ziploc bag. Second, and this is the real genius part, flatten it out completely until it's a thin, completely uniform sheet. Third, slap a date sticker on it so you know exactly when you prepped it. And fourth, toss it in the freezer. Because it's flattened into a thin sheet, it takes up practically zero space in your freezer drawer, but more importantly, it thaws in a fraction of the time compared to a big frozen block of meat. You'll literally be ready to whip up your next batch of soup in minutes.
And there you have it, the end of our deep dive. You now know the science of hydration, the aromatic magic of the three buddies, and the delicate assembly required to nail the perfect Jued Tofu Moo Sab. But keep in mind, this bouncy pork technique isn't just for this one dish. So I'm going to leave you with this thought. Now that you've completely mastered the secret of bouncy Moo Ba Cho, what other homemade soups, noodles, or stir-fries are you going to upgrade next? The possibilities are pretty much endless. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and happy cooking!